Hey guys, it's Amy Thing to Plan, and today I am doing a walkthrough of my budget setup. So you can see here that I am in my budget section for my Happy Planner, Franken Planner. This is the third section in my book, and I have flipped through these pages in my planner flip throughs after the pin, but I thought that I would put together a video just kind of walking you through this information in a lot more detail. So just to start off with, the very first thing that I have here is not something from the Happy Planner. It's actually a free printable from Just a Girl and her blog. Abby Lawson released these pages on her website, justagirlandherblog.com, and I think that they are perfect for what I actually use my budgeting system it's kind of like the format that really works for me. And so what I'm going to do is walk you through how I've set it up, and really talk to you about like how I've got it set up currently and how I would change it and kind of tweak it so that way it would work a little bit better with like cash envelopes, with paycheck, like budgeting by paycheck, and doing any of these other kind of models for budgeting. So the very first thing I've got here is well, I guess let me like rewind even a little bit further. Like she does have these printables on her website, and I decided to go ahead and print out only the pages that I would use. And so I do have to, because it's classic size, I do have to shrink it down when I print it. And so the way that I print it is basically to scale down when I print to 82%. So there is, generally speaking, in everybody's like word processing program or like on the PDF program, when you actually hit the print button, there will be an option for scaling, and most people will scale it to either fit the paper that you're using or to scale it at 100%. So I just scale it down to 82%, and that is just big enough for me to be able to trim out the page and have it fit into my classic size. So that's just a tip for you if you're looking to do this and printing it down to classic size. How would you be able to do that from letter size? So that's the first thing. I also only printed the pages that I wanted. Some pages I did print multiples of. So example here would be like these tracking expenses. I printed a bunch of these. I was sticking with like the oranges and the pinks here. And so I just printed out just the pages that I needed. So this very first set of pages that I printed were the recurring expenses. So there were recurring expenses, and then there was a like a blank version of it. Is basically the second page of it. One of the things that I did do was basically white out the white out like the labels, and honestly I don't even remember what the labels are. I'm pretty sure like it was like monthly, quarterly, and yearly. So I whited that out and don't have that on there. So what I did instead was of having those breakdowns, I went ahead and split it up into fixed expenses, fixed monthly expenses, variable expenses, and then this section was just added here just because I ran out of room, and then quarterly expenses. So these are the three big areas here: fixed, variable, and quarterly. Now, one of the things I would do differently is before I even jumped into some of these pages, I would add a section for income. And so I did not do that here, and I really feel like that's missing. So I would add like a section for income, and just leave yourself enough room for however much income streams you have. For me, it would be like 4. And so I would need like 4 lines for income streams. And then I obviously am leaving like a space blank here. And so that's a section that's missing. And so I wish I had done that. I will probably in June or July reprint these pages and add that in here. And so what that would mean is like everything would kind of shift down, and I'd probably need another recurring expenses sheet and have 3 pages instead of just 2. But I feel like that's one of the benefits of a free printable that I print out myself. I can put it in whatever order works for me, and it's just good like that. So anyway, let's just go into a breakdown of the fixed expenses. So here I have mortgage, our alarm system, ADT, and then we have our cell phone and cable kind of rolled into one with T-Mobile. And this is something that's new. So initially, like we had canceled cable, canceled internet. And so for just the first couple of months, we only had cell phone, but then in April, we decided to go back into using like internet, and so we added that in April. And then I also have Dropbox, but it says Dropbox, but it's really online services and subscriptions of any sort. So here's Dropbox. It's our Amazon Prime account. It would be Hulu, Netflix, all of those types of fixed expenses that occur every month. And so that's right here. And then the last thing here is daycare. These fixed expenses for me are things that are pulled straight out of our banking account. I like to track the dollar amount, but I don't necessarily need to pull cash for that in order to like count the money, because I do know that it's a fixed expense. It's going to be coming out. In terms of like kind of budgeting for our income, like I have my income number and then I subtract these dollar amounts. And one of the things I didn't do is like right here in the dollar amount, I was initially like writing that in. And in fact, I did write it in pencil for a little while, but then I erased it. I'm not quite sure why. But anyway, a dollar amount does exist here. So for mortgage, we budget every month $1.45, 1,045 for our mortgage, because that's how much it is. And then for ADT, it was initially like 69 per month, and that's what I would log here just to keep track of it. But then in March, it went up to 73. So now I'm budgeting 73 for that. And then T-Mobile, again, we initially for the first 3 months had only just our cell phone bill. So that was 100. But now it's gone up to 162. And that includes cell phone and our internet. And then our online services. This category, I actually budget right around like $60 a month. Because like some of the services are like a one-time thing, like Amazon Prime, I like to kind of split that up across the year. And so I do budget 60 and just let that money kind of roll over. But these are the dollar amounts that we have paid. I pretty much at the beginning of the year canceled like all of our services. So I only have Dropbox for like the first couple of months. But then like a couple of subscriptions kind of came back on and like got charged in April. So that's why there's 132. And then daycare. A couple of these months, like we got like this January month, we got billed for something in December, like some registration fees and things like that. And then like this month, March, was an extra fifth week. And so we had a little bit more there. And then there were some late fees and some penalties that were kind of built in there. So we need to be better at paying it on time. Now, what I do for this section, and really what I do for the entire, like all of this, is at the end of the month, I calculate how much I spent for each section. And so here for mortgage, we only have the one mortgage. So whenever it's pulled out of our bank account, I just write the dollar amount and I just know that it's been paid at that time. Some of these others, like the online services here, Dropbox and online services, and then daycare, these things include a couple of other items. And so that has to be something where I kind of like am tracking whether all of those services are pulled out by the end of the month. And so again, if I had to change it, I would break it down and be a little bit more specific. Instead of just saying Dropbox and to include all online services, I would go ahead and build a sinking fund in here for like Amazon Prime. And I might not pay anything for the entire year except for that one-time charge, but I would go ahead and know that I'm saving money for it. So again, this is what I would change about it if I were redoing it. And then daycare, I did actually create a sheet to track that, and you'll see that when I flip through it a little bit later. Here is my variable expenses. Again, these are the monthly expenses that we have for our home, and these are the dollar amounts that obviously vary, and so there's no set amount here, but for these three, our gas, our electricity, and our water, I do budget somewhere in the dollar range, I'm trying to remember, of $285. I'm pretty sure it's 285. And so I budget that, and that's like way over the amount that we need. Like we do not hit 285 in a month. But it's nice to just have that cushion just in case like we have a really hot month or like something like in terms of like natural disaster or something like that happens where we need to use extra power. And so again, like what I do here is just to keep track of when the bills get pulled out, I write the dollar amount once it hits the bank account. So like here you can see, for example, I'm recording this here, like actually like what date is it? Anyway, so it's between the 8th and the 18th. I can't even keep up with dates anymore because it's summer break for me. But so we've had our gas already charged, so I went ahead and wrote that down. But I'm waiting for the 18th to roll around so I can make note of the dollar amount for power. And so when I add these up down this like column right here, it does not total up to 280. But that's how I kind of keep track. Like this month, like, whoa, I don't know what happened here, but like we had like really high dollar amounts, and that's pretty close to 280, but it's still not 280. Okay, so that's that. And I'm skipping this section. You'll see this in just a second. But then here are our quarterly expenses. And so this is like our pest control. I put A&P, but it's not actually just A&P. It's pest control, termite bond, that kind of thing. And we do it every other month. You can see here, like it's none for January, $35 for February. And then like in the summer, I can't remember exactly which month, we will have our termite bond come live, and so you'll see a huge dollar amount here for that month. I mean, again, like one of the things I do here is kind of over budget each month and just let that money roll over. So what I put into the sinking fund here for pest control is $135 a month. And so I use some of it every other month, but then the bulk of it will go for pest control in that summer month, whichever month it is. And then here, Devil Dogs is our lawn care. That's the name of the company that we use. And so again, like we don't necessarily like this. May was really weird because that was actually a charge from March. And so they ended up like pulling it at the same time because there was an error with accounting. And so it was meant to be a March charge and then a May charge. But either way, like again, same kind of concept here. I am actually budgeting $45 a month and then letting that money roll over. And whenever we use it, we will use it. At the end of the year, by the way, for all of these dollar amounts, if there's any extra money, I basically reset at the end of the year. So all of the dollar amounts that are left over, all the cushion and things like that, will get rolled over into savings. And then I'll, at the beginning of January 2022, just start at zero for all of these accounts. Okay. So then here is my, like, basically my big, like not big, like the small cash envelopes or sinking funds that I've got set up. And then here is a no spend. So these kind of work together. Again, one of the things that I would change here is like I started with fixed and then variable, and then I thought I wouldn't have enough room. So I really should have had this down here in the quarterly section and then cash up here, no spend down here. And so I would fix that if I redid it, and just have all of the expenses, house expenses on one side and then cash envelopes on this other side. But you know, like, it still works. I can still understand what's going on here. So for no spend, my 3 no spend categories are planner, Amazon purchases, and miscellaneous, like things that don't fall into like this stuff. Like miscellaneous is basically unbudgeted, like anything that I didn't actually plan to buy, like emergencies, things like that. Any money that's over any of these cash envelopes. And so I did explain in a previous video that my planner supplies line here, one of the things that happens with planner supplies is I am in the middle of destashing. Like, it's one of my long-term goals to try to reduce my stash in terms of planner supplies. And so for planner supplies, what I do is try to earn $200 every month. That $200 goes straight to travel to fund like my travel sinking fund, and then anything above and beyond the $200 will then go as like spending cash for my planner supplies. And so I typically will have like $5 or $10 each month because I'll make $200 and then have like $5 or $10 over that. And I can use that to like buy some fun stuff in terms of planner accessories, things like that. And I've done really good. You can see here, I've done really good with Amazon. Again, like what I do for all of these pages is total up at the end of the month, how much I've spent in that category. And I've been really good about not buying any random stuff. And then for Amazon, being really good about not spending anything. These two numbers right here, 222 and 223, these are actually the exact same amount. Like I use exactly the dollar amount, but for whatever reason, that was a rounding error. It really should be 222 and 222. Anyway, so it's at zero for Amazon. And then here are my cash categories. Again, what I do here is basically total up at the end of the month how much I spent in each of these areas. And, you know, that's what I did. Now I'm going to show you these in more detail as I flip through here. They're not in this order, but they are all like on the next couple of pages. So I have a like more specific breakdown of these things just because I like to track and these things too. I like to track these in like line items. And so you'll see that as we get through it. And I'll already mentioned that daycare also has its own kind of line item to be able to track some of those things. So those are the ones that you're going to see on the next couple of pages. First thing here is gas and fuel. So for gas and fuel, the budgeted amount is $60 a month, right? So I'll just flip back a page and I'll just show this to you just for gas. But really right here, I should put 60. I just don't like to write it down right there. What I'm thinking, just so you know this, like for this amount right here, at the end of the year, I'm going to like total up the entire year's worth of expenses and then do an average amount. So that's what I'm thinking. So that way I have a better understanding of what I should set my budget for in 2022. So just so you know why this is blank, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Same here for like pretty much all of these pages. All right. So going back to this, what I do budget for gas is $60 a month. And so what I do is like, I started this again like mid-April, but basically what I do, if you just look at the orange line, every month I'll go ahead and like highlight right here to let me know that it's the beginning of the month that I'm adding $60 to that cash envelope. And then specifically for gas and fuel, I started off at 0, so I had exactly $60. And then what I do is just list all of the things that I spent and how much my balance should be in my cash envelope. And so I do that for all of them. Same here for health and fitness. I do $10 a month. Now, one of the things that I did do in March because of our stimulus check is go through and seed, like add additional money for each of the categories. So these dollar amounts are really high. Like this obviously doesn't look like $10 a month, right? If you're doing $10 a month for like January, February, March, April, and just those 4 months, it really should only be $40. So this dollar amount is higher because I went in March and just added a bunch of money to some of these envelopes. So that's why the dollar amount is so high. And so it is $10 a month. Again, I went through and seeded all of these envelopes. So starting in April, I'm adding $10 a month, but at the end of the year, according to my math, which I'm kind of bad at math, but according to my math, because of the seeding, like the March seeding, and then reducing the dollar amount to $10 a month, at the end of the year, it will average out to be $15 a month that I've kind of budgeted for health and fitness. So again, that's the goal. These things can change, obviously. And right now I have a lot of money in here, but I mentioned this in a previous video too, that we're going to be doing a lot of more like doctor's appointments. So we need this money to be able to like pay for copays and things like that. All right. And so a lot of these are just like right now I'm just buying like beauty products, things like that. Like I bought some lotion, which from the Dollar Tree, which is awesome. This lotion is so good. So I just did that. And just so you know, like, don't like sleep on like Dollar Tree. Like they have some really good stuff there. And I really like their lotion. I don't know why that's a thing, but like I really love it. All right. So anyway, I made that purchase. And then a couple of these other things, like I've created, like you can see here, there's a note that I had to like change up a category. This was something that I decided to like initially put in health and fitness, but it's really, this line item was meant to be like a home goods category. And so you can see here that I actually moved it over here, like it's right here. And it was an April purchase, and I moved a couple of other dollar amounts in order to just like recategorize it into this dollar amount. So right now in my home category, I only have $3.87 to be like completely exact. It's only $3 in the envelope, but I'm budgeting $15 a month. And again, according to my math, that will average out to be $10 a month across the 12-month period. And so home, again, this is kind of like knickknack stuff, that kind of thing. And what I do here is just, again, like highlight in orange to let me know that I'm adding $15. I add that to the balance. And so this one, again, was starting off at 15 at 0. So I just added 15 and then I just subtract the dollar amount as I go through. Now, right here, food and dining is next. Food and dining is a combination of like groceries, eating out, coffee, all of that kind of thing. And I budget $200 a month. Now, I forgot to mention this in my previous video when I was doing the cash stuffing, but I do live with my daughter, 4-year-old daughter, and my husband. And my husband actually splits this cost with me. We actually, in fact, purchase groceries separately. Like he kind of likes his food, I like my food, and then we just kind of like, you know, I'll tell him to buy certain things. He'll tell me to buy certain things. So we kind of blend. And so this budgeted amount is $200 that I pay to food and dining. And so just to put it out there, I think it's kind of a low dollar amount. So if you saw that and you were like, what, only $200? It's because like we do split that. So I do want to make that clear. All right, same system here. If you look just at the orange, I'm adding $200 here. I did start off with some money again from my March seeding from stimulus check. So I had this dollar amount, and then again, I just subtract all the way down. And this is the balance that I should have in my cash envelopes. And so this is, again, just so you can see this, the cash envelopes are set up here. And I should have in like gas, for example, $30, because that was on the what was on the previous sheet. And then food and dining should have $213 minus the cents, because I don't keep the cents in, the coins in there. So that is what's there for food and dining. Here is Sophea's allowance. I do give her $20 a month, and again, same thing. Orange means I'm adding that at the beginning of the month, and then I just subtract what she has spent. Daycare, again, this is something that's pulled automatically from our bank account, and I showed you this earlier. This budgeted amount, it should be $540 just because like on average, but again, I seeded it in March in order to like not go into the negative. And so starting in April, we are doing $400 a month, and at the end of the year, across all 12 months, it should average out to be $540. And so that's here. We should actually only, like, we should be building a little bit of a nest egg, because Sophea is now out of school. So she's only going to be charged, I think, 1 more week. And then the rest of the money over the summer months will just be accumulating until she starts back to school in August. And so I'll be excited to like have that extra money because she will be switching into like a private school in August. And so we need a little bit more money to like do things like purchase uniforms and things like that. And so this will switch to basically school, not daycare anymore. All right, planner supplies. Again, like I do try to get $200, and then like any extra money will be pulled into this planner supplies category. It is budgeted at 0, so the money I don't like budget for this dollar amount. Just anything extra goes in here. And one of the things I do like to do is like I tend to fall into the habit of like browsing random craft stores like when I have free time, and I like to make note of like when I go to a store, even if I don't spend anything. You can see that here. I still like to write it down so that way I know that I've been to these stores and like just kind of track the habits that I'm doing in terms of like how often do I go to these stores, right? I've been really good, right? But again, like we start here with orange, and I didn't add anything. I just like to note that this is like a new month. And then I did make a couple of purchases already at the beginning of this month, and it reduced my dollar amount. In fact, I went negative. Technically speaking, I did go negative, but I already knew that I had money in PayPal from D-stashes, so I went ahead and added that back. So I technically had the money, it just wasn't like in my cash envelope. So I had to pull from some other cash envelopes and then like added that money back to that cash envelope when I pulled it out. Okay, so that's that dollar amount. And in fact, it was so weird, and like one of those things is kind of a sign, right? Like I was short $396. I had in my PayPal exactly $8.96. So I have $5 in my planner envelope right now, and you can see that right here, my $5. All right, so Amazon, again, I haven't spent anything. I didn't even, in fact, do the orange just because I haven't used this category at all for the entire year, which is awesome. Same thing for here for miscellaneous. I didn't want to like highlight it just because I have not this entire year made any unbudgeted purchases, so I'm really happy about like leaving those blank. Here's car maintenance. For car maintenance, I do budget $75 a month. I have not had to do any major car maintenance. I will in the month of May have to do something towards the end of the month, or maybe the beginning of June. I'm going to get like my car serviced, and so this dollar amount will go down, but there's the money for that. And then here, education, $37 a month. Again, like I did a seating in March. It will average out to be $90 a month for the entire year, but I do have some money here. Education for me is like licensing fees, professional fees. I have to do continuing education to keep up my license. And so all of that is this stuff, right? Music, $10 a month here. This is for like concerts, but mostly for like music, entertainment, CDs, that kind of thing. And then last big chunk of this is like I do perform in several like musical ensembles, and we have to purchase our own music, like music sheet music. And so this is the money that I'm saving up to purchase my music for that. So that is there. And in fact, this is probably not enough. Honestly, I need to be closer to like maybe like $200 by August. So I'm probably gonna run into some issues there. I won't have enough money in that category. All right. So it is what it is. Right here is gifts. I'm going to have to blur out some of this just because it has some names here. I didn't do that in the last one. So, I mean, you can kind of like see it, but I'm not sure that my coworkers want to be on the video. Anyway, I do gifts at $100 a month, and this covers like all birthday gifts, like holiday gifts, Christmas gifts. I do like just save up money for all of that. Right now I'm at $200, give or take, right? And I've added $100, and then like I've had to spend quite a bit in April, but then like for May I haven't spent quite as much, and so I have spent like right at $50, but that means I still have $50 that I've put into like basically saving for Christmas, so that's there. And then here's travel. Again, I seated initially in March, and so now we're down to $105 each month. And one of the big things is that I spent a huge chunk of it just recently to pay off or like put some money towards a cruise that we're taking at the end of the year. So like I'm down to like only $105. I'm saving that money right here just because I need some money for a trip that we're taking in June. And so I don't want to like spend all of that money. I really could have, I guess I could have just zeroed it out and just waited until June, because I'll get another $105 for June. But, you know, just in case there's something that comes up in May in terms of like going on a day trip or something like that, I wanted to have a little bit of cash in there. So that is travel. Then we have Go Wild. I talked about this in the previous video, but here, like this category is a zero budgeted amount. I don't actually budget anything for here. What I do is actually pull money from D-stashes. Now you're gonna say, oh my gosh, didn't you just talk about D-stashes and having money from D-stashes go into planner supplies? Yes, that is absolutely true. And so if I make $200, that funds this initial like travel. And then if I make an additional above 200, it goes into planner supplies. But one of the things that I've been doing is not using as much in planner supplies. And every time I build up $25 or more, I will well, it's actually technically $24. Every $24, I will just transfer over here. And so if it's like, for example, I made $200 and then I made on top of that another $24. That $24 goes here to Go Wild. And then if I made, let's just say $225.62. $200 goes here to travel, $24 goes here to Go Wild, and then the $1.62 will go into planner supplies. So hopefully that makes sense. That's kind of how I've been doing it, is like the priority is funding travel, then funding Go Wild, then funding the planner supplies category. Right? Here is where I've been tracking the pest control. Again, like we didn't do anything in May, so it's just like the amounts that I've added in here, but this is the sheet that I've been using to track that quarterly expense. I really should go through and recreate this. I mentioned this at the beginning of the video. I really should go back and create this setup for the online services here, so I will do that probably. Now that I'm thinking about it, I will do it right after the video, is create like an online services one, so that way I can kind of track all of the expenses that are coming out there and just kind of keep track of, like, make sure that these specific online services are being deducted from the account. All the rest are like single type things, right? I showed you the daycare, but all the others are single type things. All right, and then last one is lawn care. Again, lawn care was the one that I showed you earlier. Like it's like right here. Right, it's right here. And again, I did this for this one, but I don't know why I didn't do it for the online services, right? So this is just lawn care. I'm just tracking day by day. And like, again, like there was a miscalculation here. One of these purchases should have been like in March, but we didn't get it deducted, so it got a double charge in May. But this is one of the reasons why I like to have just a sheet for it, just because I can total at the very end of the month, like for example, that I should have $100. And I went ahead and, just so you can see this, I've already written in $100, but I really shouldn't have done that because maybe they'll come back at the end of the month. I'm pretty sure they won't. I should check with my husband. We might have one more service with our lawn care before the end of May, so I really shouldn't have put that in there because if they come back at the end of the month, then it'll be $150 for the month, right? So, all right, that's kind of how it works. Like that total is right now at 100, so I wrote it in as 100, but we might have one more, and then it'd be 150. And so that is just kind of how it works. And at the beginning of every month, or at the end of every month, I go through and total these dollar amounts. Like again, like here's a good example. Like if these were the only two things, it would be $100. I would take that $100 and transfer it right here to be $100. I would do the same thing for pest control. Right now it's at 0. I would do it for all of my cash envelopes, all of these single amounts, and just kind of do like that. And as I'm thinking about it, one of the big things that maybe I should do is have fixed expenses single, and then fixed expenses that I need like an actual sheet to track these things for. So that might be something that I would change in the future as well. Something for me to think about. I'll think about that and make a decision soon. But you saw all of this in terms of like I explained this, and you saw these kind of in action with the more detailed sheets, and that's how I set up my budget. Wow, that was a long video, but hopefully it helped you out to kind of think about what would work for you. I do try to keep it fairly simple and functional, so I just want to be able to see where the numbers are. It's not necessarily where I need to have a ton of like extra sheets of paper and like all of these additional things kind of coming up, or like use a bunch of different things, and this system works for me. Now, I guess now that I'm at the end, I really should tell you that this is obviously a monthly budget. I try to do everything month by month, but if you need more detailed breakdowns, I feel like you could adapt some of what I'm talking about here to be week by week, but monthly works best for me, just because I like to be able to like have all of my cash and kind of disperse it all at the beginning of the month and kind of track it over the month rather than like doing it every single week. So hopefully that makes sense. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them below, and I am more than happy to answer any questions that you have. I do try to answer every comment that I receive, and so that That's one of the benefits of kind of still being a small channel. All right, so if you enjoyed this video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to my channel. And until the next video, bye guys.